We are strapping in for Avatar. Fire and Ash, the third movie in James Cameron's monumental saga.
And it really is more than just a movie, isn't it? It's a global event. It feels like it's designed to prove that, going to the cinema still matters.
Exactly. But our mission today is a bit more complicated than that. We're not just here to talk about the scale, which we will. We definitely will.
Oh, for sure.
We're here to really dissect this tension that everyone seems to be talking about. The question is, when the visuals are this good, this revolutionary, can that spectacle actually save a story that feels, I don't know, dangerously familiar?
That's the billion-dollar question, right? Because on one hand, people are walking out of the theater calling it the most visually perfect film ever made, period.
And on the other?
On the other, the biggest criticism is that the story is like a carbon copy of Way of the Water, a cut-and-paste job.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge deal. Can we, as an audience, just keep trading an original story for better tech? Is that the deal now?
Well, that's what we need to figure out. The film picks up right where the last one left off. Jake Sully, his family, the Colonel, still hunting them. No time wasted.
And that's maybe part of the problem. We need to start with this feeling of repetition, because it seems to be the thing that's tripping everyone up.
It really is. I mean, when people talk about the repetition, they're not just saying, oh, it's another story about family versus war. It's much deeper than that.
Oh, so?
It's a structural echo. The actual beats of the plot, the character motivations, even how the conflicts get resolved, it all mirrors the last film with this almost unnerving accuracy.
So you're saying it's literally the same plot points, just in a new location?
Pretty much. The joke going around is that you could take a review for Way of the Water, do a quick find and replace on the environment, swap ocean for volcano, and the review would still be 90% accurate.
Wow. That's a pretty damning thing to say about a movie that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and took years to make.
It is. It's just the storytelling engine is just stuck in a loop, even while the visual engine is, breaking new ground.
Let's trace that loop. In the first movie, Jacob adapts to the forest.
Right. A huge character journey. Then in Way of the Water, they're forced out of the forest and have to adapt to the ocean. That felt like a progression, a big one.
But now, in Fire and Ash,
the formula just repeats. The villain shows up again, their current home is compromised, and the family has to run away and find refuge with another new Na'vi clan.
The Ash people this time, from the title.
Exactly. They live in this harsh, fiery, volcanic area. And while that's visually incredible, the story mechanism is identical. It feels less like a journey and more like a forced tour of Pandora's greatest hits. Find a new place, learn the ropes, get found, fight, run away.
It creates this feeling of moving without actually going anywhere.
Motion without momentum. That's a perfect way to put it.
So at the end of this 3-hour-plus movie, what's actually changed?
Very little in the grand scheme of things. You get a big emotional moment, a major character death that, to be fair, does hit you. But the main conflict, the whole human invasion, the Colonel's obsession, it's all exactly where it was. It's like they hit the reset button.
Which feeds right into this big theory that's been floating around.
The two-part problem. The idea that Way of the Water and Fire and Ash weren't written as two separate movies.
Right. They were written as one massive 6-hour film that just got chopped in half.
And honestly, the way Fire and Ash begins, it makes a pretty strong case for that theory.
How so?
There's no setup, no easing you back into the world. It just starts. It picks up at the exact emotional and physical point the last movie ended. You're just thrown right back into the action.
That's a huge ask for an audience when the movies are years apart. You're expected to remember every little detail.
It assumes a level of continuity that just doesn't exist for most people. You miss out on that quiet time at the beginning of a film where you reestablish the stakes, you see how the family has changed since you last saw them.
Instead, it's just go, go, go from the first frame.
Right. It feels like you've started a marathon at mile 6. The film is in such a rush to get back to the spectacle that it kind of skips over the character work that would make that spectacle matter more.
So if you loved The Way of the Water purely for the spectacle,
you will not be disappointed. This is more of that, and it's incredible. But if you were hoping for the story to evolve in a meaningful way, you might need to manage your expectations.
Okay, let's pivot then. Let's talk about the area where there are no complaints. The reason you buy the ticket. The visuals.
The James Cameron of it all.
Exactly. There's that old saying in Hollywood, never bet against James Cameron. And this film is the latest reason why. The man is just on another planet when it comes to technology.
He really is. I mean, the franchise is basically his personal R&D department for the future of cinema. First film in 2009 was a revolution, way of the water-mastered water physics in a way no one had ever seen.
So what's the big leap in Fire and Ash?
It's less about a single new invention and more about perfection. Taking all the tools they've built and executing them so flawlessly that you forget you're watching a computer-generated image.
Well, let's talk about that, the CGI illusion.
Yeah.
Because the whole movie is basically an animation, right?
Yeah.
But you never feel it. Not for 1 second does it look fake or, video gamey.
And that's the magic. It comes down to a few incredibly technical things that they've just completely mastered. First, something called subsurface scattering.
Okay, break it down. That's the thing that makes skin look real, right? Not like plastic.
Precisely. It's a simulation of how light doesn't just bounce off a surface like skin, but actually penetrates it, bounces around underneath, and then comes back out.
So you can almost see through it, a little bit.
A tiny bit. It's what gives skin its translucency. On the Na'vi, you feel like you can see the light interacting with the layers of their skin. It completely eliminates that uncanny valley feeling.
And the second thing.
Complex volumetric lighting, which is a fancy way of saying they've perfected how light moves through things like air, smoke, mist, and water. Pandora is filled with these things, plus all the bioluminescence.
So the light feels dense? It feels like it has texture?
It feels real. It fools your brain into just accepting the whole world as an organic, living place.
And obviously the title gives away the two big showcases. The water sequences are back and just as stunning. But then you have the fire and the ash. Why is that such a big technical challenge?
Well, water is hard, but it follows predictable rules of fluid dynamics. Fire and smoke. That's chaos.
It's gas and particles going everywhere.
It's pure chaos. You're simulating heat, light, turbulence, and literally billions of individual embers and ash particles all at once. And fire is its own light source, which makes everything 10 times more complicated.
So if any one of those elements is off, the whole illusion just falls apart.
It shatters. The fact that the fire and ash sequences are being called just as beautiful and realistic as the water sequences, that's a monumental achievement in computer graphics.
And this all extends down to the characters themselves. The motion capture, the expressiveness of their faces, it's just seamless.
It's flawless. You see every subtle muscle twitch in the actors' performances perfectly translated to their Na'vi characters.
Yeah.
And that's so important because without that connection, the whole emotional core of the film would just collapse, especially if the story is already on shaky ground.
It's what lets the actors actually act through the technology.
Yes. The tech serves the performance, not the other way around.
So given all of this, the consensus is pretty clear. You have to see this on the biggest, best screen you can find. We're talking IMAX 3D.
It's almost not optional. It feels like the film was made specifically for that format. The 3D camera it uses isn't a gimmick. It's a tool to create depth and scale. And the sheer size of an IMAX screen means none of that insane detail gets lost.
Watching it at home on a TV would be.
It would be like listening to a symphony through a tin can. You'd be missing the entire point. It is the single best argument for the theatrical experience that's been made in years.
Okay, so the visual perfection is a given. But inside that perfection, Cameron made a very specific technical choice that has become probably the most controversial part of the whole experience.
High frame rate HFR.
This isn't new, right? Peter Jackson tried this with The Hobbit and people did not like it.
They hated it. But Cameron, being Cameron, decided he could do it right. He brought it back, but only for specific parts of the film.
Let's get into the specifics, because this is where it gets really interesting. The movie is 3 hours and 15 minutes.
And about 40% of it, so maybe an hour and 20 minutes, is shown in this high frame rate format.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, explain the difference. What's standard versus HFR?
Standard film for the last 100 years has been 24 frames per second. 24 FPS. It creates a certain amount of motion blur, which our brains interpret as, cinematic.
It's the look of a movie.
It's the look of a movie. The HFR sections in Fire and Ash run at double that, 48 frames per second.
So twice the information, super smooth, super clear, no motion blur. For an action scene, that sounds better, right?
On paper, yes. But it creates two big problems. The first is what people call the soap opera effect.
Right, where it looks too real, like you're watching a daytime TV show or a home video.
Exactly. It strips away that dreamy, film-like quality. But the bigger issue, the one that's really dividing people, is how Cameron uses it.
because that 40% isn't all in one chunk.
Not at all. This is the key. The film is constantly switching back and forth. You'll get a big action sequence and silky smooth 48 FPS, a chase, a fight, an underwater scene. And then, as soon as the characters stop to talk or there's just a reaction shot, it drops right back down to 24 FPS, sometimes in the middle of a scene.
Oh, wow. I can see how that would be.
Yeah.
Jarring.
It's incredibly jarring because what happens is your brain and your eyes adjust. After a few minutes of watching 48 FPS, that becomes your new normal. You get used to that hyper clarity.
So when it switches back to the standard 24 FPS?
It no longer looks normal. Your brain perceives it as a downgrade. It suddenly looks stuttery and choppy.
Like a video game starting to lag.
That's the perfect analogy. It feels like the projector is broken or the file is corrupted. You get pulled right out of the movie by this technical choice that was meant to pull you in deeper.
It's frame rate whiplash.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating experiment, but for a lot of viewers, it actively works against the film's goal of total immersion.
And it's important to add the caveat here. This might only be happening in certain theaters, right? Like specifically the premium ones.
That seems to be the case. It's likely reserved for the IMAX 3D showings. So if you're someone who is really sensitive to that kind of thing, or if you remember hating how The Hobbit looked, you might actually have a better time at a standard showing.
That's a strange thing to say. Pay less for a better experience.
It's a weird situation, for sure. The technical ambition is sort of at war with itself.
Okay, let's move from the technical side of things back to the story, because this is where the formula fear really sets in. We talked about the circular journey, but what does that actually look like on screen?
It looks like a lot of running. Yeah. The plot basically goes, set up the conflict, show us what the villain is up to for a while, introduce the new Na'vi clan, and then launch into a very, very long climax.
But the circular part is that the character's core situation doesn't change.
Exactly. Jake's goal is to find a safe place for his family. He finds one, they achieve a moment of peace, the colonel finds them, they lose someone or something important, and then they're forced to run and find a new safe place. It's an A to B to C journey, where A, B, and C are all just different hiding spots.
That sounds less like a story and more like a video game level.
Yeah.
Where the boss just keeps chasing you from one area to the next so the game can show off the new scenery.
It's a great comparison. The story feels like it's been engineered to keep the status quo, to make sure nothing changes too much before the next movie. And that really hurts the emotional weight of everything.
Yeah, let's compare it to the last film. Part 2 had that scene in the jungle. I mean, it was genuinely shocking and brutal. It felt like it had permanent consequences.
It did. It landed like a punch to the gut. This film, Fire and Ash, tries to have similar moments, big sacrifices, painful goodbyes, but they just don't hit as hard.
Why not?
Because it feels like the visuals are being asked to do the emotional work for the writing. When a character is crying, you're mesmerized by the technically perfect tears and the flawless animation of their face, but you're not necessarily feeling the raw grief behind it. The tech is perfect, but the emotion can feel a bit hollow.
Which brings us back to that famous story Cameron was telling a few years ago.
The freaked out executives.
Right. He claimed that his original script for Part 3 was so extreme and the stakes were so high that the studio executives basically panicked when they read it.
That set up this massive expectation, didn't it? We were all waiting for this huge game-changing moment, a real "what did you just do" twist that would change the whole franchise.
And did we get it?
Not really. I mean, the film takes one big risk, which was unfortunately spoiled in the trailer, but for the most part, it pulls its punches. Instead of that big, shocking moment, you get what some critics are calling logical jumps.
That's the logical jump.
It's a convenient solution that suddenly appears to get a hero out of an impossible situation. It's not quite a Deus Ex Machina, but it's close.
Could you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine Jake is in a final battle with the colonel. He's cornered, he's about to lose, and it looks like he's going to be killed or captured. A really dramatic moment.
Okay.
But then suddenly, a random volcanic geyser erupts right under the colonel's feet, or a creature that we've never seen before swoops in and disarms him, allowing Jake to get away clean.
So he doesn't have to actually win the fight or suffer the consequences of losing it?
Exactly. The environment saves him. It's a get-out-of-jail-free card. And when you see a few of those, it tells you that the story was probably edited for safety. They took out the truly risky parts that freaked out the executives and replaced them with these convenient escapes to keep their main characters safe for the next installment.
It's risk management instead of storytelling.
That's a good way to put it.
So when we put it all together, what's the final verdict?
I mean, the film is absolutely engaging while you're watching it. You are glued to the screen for all 3 hours. But when you walk out, the thing that stays with you is the spectacle, not the story. The visuals get a 10 out of 10, but the narrative pulls the overall average way down.
And that leads to this bigger fear, the formula trap, the idea that this huge, ambitious franchise is just settling.
And that's the real danger, because you can see the pattern now. Displace the family, adapt to a new biome, fight the Colonel, reset for the next one. It's starting to feel like another big franchise that fell into the same trap.
You're talking about Jurassic World.
I'm talking about Jurassic World, a franchise that became heavily criticized for just repeating the same formula every few years with slightly different dinosaurs.
New park, bigger monster, same mistakes, big fight at the end.
It's a template. And the worry is that Avatar is becoming a template. Slightly change the environment and drop a new movie every 3 years. The audience starts to realize the stakes aren't real because they know Jake will survive and the Colonel will be back.
It goes from being a cinematic event to just time pass, something to watch.
Which is the biggest risk of all. People will still go for the visual hit, but the artistic side of it, the reason we cared in the first place, starts to fade.
So the recommendation, is it still a go see it?
For this one, yes, I think it is. Based on the technical achievement alone, it's something you have to experience in a theater. If you care about the craft of filmmaking on a visual level, it is required viewing.
There's a big but coming.
There's a huge but. The recommendation comes with a warning. If part 4 shows up in a few years and it's this exact same story again, then the franchise is in trouble. The spectacle is carrying the whole thing on its back right now, but that can't last forever. Eventually, audience fatigue will set in, no matter how beautiful the next part of Pandora is.
Cameron needs to deliver that story that scared the suits.
He needs to give us real consequences. The challenge isn't about the pixels anymore, it's about the plot.
So we've taken our deep dive into Avatar, Fire and Ash, and the whole thing is just a story of two extremes, isn't it?
Completely. On one side, you have this visually perfect, technically masterful experience. On the other, you have a narrative that feels like a rerun.
It's this incredible must-see event that also feels like the second half of a movie you already saw 2 years ago.
The tech is the safety net. It's so good, it papers over all the cracks in the story.
So what does this all mean? We've talked about how the visuals do all the heavy lifting, and we even talked about how a technical choice, the HFR switching, creates this weird stuttering feeling.
A constant interruption.
Exactly, an interruption. And if you think about it, the plot does the same thing. It's this circular stop-start journey that keeps getting interrupted and reset. So the whole experience, both technically and narratively, is one of being pulled in and then pushed out.
That's a fascinating connection.
Which leads me to our final thought. If the next Avatar movie finally takes that big risk, if it delivers that shocking story Cameron promised, will we even notice? Or have we, the audience, been so trained by the spectacle, so distracted by the visual perfection, that we've started to accept the formula?
Are we enabling it by buying the ticket no matter what?
Are we expecting the plot to just solve itself with another convenient logical jump? We might be saying we want great stories, but we're spending our money on great special effects. It's something for you to mull over.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll share this around and keep thinking about where technology and story are headed. We'll be here for the next one.